House of the Dragon season finale is in full swing. The episode served as a dramatic build-up for the start of Dance of the Dragons. There were many important moments, including Rhaenyra giving birth. After hearing the news of her father's death and Aegon's ascension to the throne, she goes into early labor. The scene is traumatizing and painful to say the least. Without further ado, let's find out why this scene holds great importance. Moving on, here's why Rhaenyra's birth scene is important. The scene of Rhaenyra giving birth to a stillborn daughter is pretty graphic, which aligns with the show's exploration of women's expected role in Westeros. Her anger and grief make her go into early labor, which results in the birth of a stillborn daughter, and she's alone throughout this life-threatening and intense situation. Even though Daemon was downstairs planning the war, Rhaenyra was already fighting her first horrifying battle before the Dance of the Dragons, and what made it worse was the fact that he ignored her screams. Unfortunately, her first battle in the Targaryen Civil War ends up with her child's death. Later in the finale, she receives another horrifying news of her son Lucerys Valyrian's death, which will eventually start the Civil War. But in George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, it was actually Visenya's death that made her take revenge on the Greens. Yes, Luke's death left her with inconsolable grief, but it was Daemon who decided to take matters into his hands for a brutal vengeance. So, she blames her daughter's death on the Greens, saying that they'll have to pay for killing her only daughter. Although she says during the finale that she doesn't want to spill the first blood, she perceives in the books that the Greens already did it by instigating the violent birth. The birth scene is important as it hardens Rhaenyra and fuels her passion for taking revenge against Aegon's party. Up next, the scene is parallel to that of her mother from the season premiere. Just when we thought we wouldn't have to witness any more disturbing births, House of the Dragons struck us with another blow. Just as the show begins, the season 1 finale also includes a harrowing scene of Rhaenyra giving birth. As we've seen, she's had 5 comparatively easy births, with the scene of Joffrey's birth in the 6th episode being a rare happy moment, until Alicent makes her walk to her room to see the baby. But the birth of her daughter Visenya in the season finale is abrupt, painful, and traumatizing, as she tragically gives birth to a stillborn baby and cradles it. What's more, she had to pull the baby herself without accepting help from anyone, which makes it even more uncomfortable to watch. Although the birth scene is disturbing, it reflects the violent childbirth scene of her mother Aemma Arryn. During the season premiere, Maesters have to cut her open to remove the child, and the scene cuts between her mutilation and the brutal tourney. And in the last episode, we see the screen swishing between Rhaenyra screaming and the flashes of her dragon Syrax, which suggests that her dragon feels her pain and also symbolizes the dragon's blood inside her. If you remember it from the premiere, Aemma remarks that a birthing bed is a woman's battlefield, which indicates Rhaenyra's violent miscarriage caused by her father's death and her half-brother Aegon stealing the throne was the first actual battle of the Dance of the Dragons. Moving on, here's why she refuses any help during the birth. This is actually her first complicated birth, and she realizes that Visenya's arrival is far too early. Likely to gain control of this horrible situation, she pulls out the baby herself in order to stop the pain. And because her mother Aemma lost her life when Maesters cut her to remove the child, it's likely that Rhaenyra was desperately trying to pull out Visenya to prevent the same thing from happening to her. We also saw this tragic moment happen with Lady Laena during episode 6, titled The Princess and the Queen. Prince Daemon was asked by the Maesters to allow them to cut her in order to get the baby out, but she realized it and chose to be burned by her dragon, Vhagar, instead. As the birthing bed is a battlefield, Rhaenyra needs to gain control here instead of getting help from the midwives. It's clear that she wasn't going to let herself die during birth and felt that only she had the power to quickly push out the baby. Yes, it's true that she didn't really have complete control over the situation. She recently lost her father and the Iron Throne, so Visenya's birth was the only thing she could do alone and in her own direction at that time. Even when it came to wrapping Visenya before her funeral, she refuses to get any help from the Silent Sisters, so that only she will hold her baby. Last but not least, fans seemingly have a problem with the birth scene. No one was really ready to see a horrible birth scene for the 4th time. While many viewers were distressed over the nature of how it was depicted, eagle-eyed fans noticed that the baby appeared to have a stump of a tail and scales. According to the books, Visenya was named after Aegon the Conqueror's wife. We're glad that they stayed true to the book here, which describes Visenya as a stillborn, malformed and twisted, with a hole in her chest and a scaled tail. She's also called a monster in the book, but fans are mad that the episode didn't make the tail and scales clear enough because anyone who isn't familiar with the books won't be able to pick up on this detail. Many people have expressed their disappointment for not emphasizing the fact that she had a dragon tail. Besides this, they also criticized that the show doesn't mention her name or the importance that Visenya holds for Rhaenyra, as she always wanted a daughter. Now, for the moment when Daemon sings to the dragon dragon Vermithor, starting with why is the Vermithor scene important? In the season finale, Daemon is seen singing in High Valyrian to the dragon Vermithor. What's exciting, Vermithor has a big role to play in the forthcoming Targaryen civil war. As the Dance of the Dragons is about to start, Daemon realizes that the Blacks have a significant advantage over the Greens, as they have more dragons. He tallies them up to 13, now 12 sadly, as compared to the Greens with only 4 dragons. So he's already planning on how to make sure the weapons at their disposal don't go to waste. Based on what's been described in the books about Vermithor, he was given the nickname the Bronze Fury. Vermithor was the late King Jaehaerys I dragon. After his passing, he refused to have a rider and remained in a wild state in the subsequent decades. At this point in the show's timeline, he's over 100 years old and one of the largest dragons in Westeros. What's more, he's one of the few dragons who can compete in size and power with Vhagar. And as we saw in the finale, that kind of raw power can completely change any situation, which Daemon hopes this dragon will do for the Blacks. Following that, what does Daemon singing to Vermithor mean? Well, it could have several motives and meanings, all of which will influence the show's future. In terms of character, it contributes to the development of Daemon's more volatile nature, from his incredible bond with Caraxes to being the one to bring Syrax's eggs, and now singing to a wild beast like Vermithor. Daemon is mainly shown as the one with the dragons, and he's more gentle with them than anyone else. Besides this, the idea of a Targaryen being a dragon has been used before in the Game of Thrones universe, for instance, with Daenerys and Viserys, but never to this extent. Although the exact translation of the High Valyrian song is unclear, it's likely to serve a dual purpose. One is for the dragon to socialize again, as he didn't have a rider since the death of King Jaehaerys I Targaryen, around 30 years before the current events. Similarly, Daemon is probably ensuring that he'll soon get a new rider. Last but not least, who's Vermithor's rider in the Dance of the Dragons? He'll be ridden by a blacksmith's bastard named Hugh, who will later be called Hugh Hammer, for wielding a warhammer. Currently, the Blacks have many dragons, but they don't have dragon riders for some of them. Later during the dance, Jaehaerys will issue a call for dragon seeds. The people having traces of Targaryen blood, Hugh is among those people as he successfully bonds with Vermithor and becomes his second ever rider. Vermithor and Hugh had a huge role to play during the biggest battles of the Dance of the Dragons. They'll fight in and help in winning the Battle of the Gullet, a fiery sea battle during which the Blacks defeat the Triarchy, who had allied with the Greens. But during the first Battle of Tumbleton, he'll switch sides with the Greens, along with another man named Ulf, who rides Silverwing. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think the birth scene did justice to the books? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more amazing and exciting videos like these. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.